Welcome to Extreme Reloading and our newest episode, Shootin' for Groups. Now let me set this up and what we're doing in this season of Extreme Reloading. We're reloading for the M48 Mauser bolt-action rifle in 8mm Mauser. And where we are in the whole process is we're finally shooting for group. In other words, I have worked up the load, chosen the bullet and all that good stuff, and now I want to fire a 5-shot group off the bench and see what this rifle is capable of with these new loads. What I'm using is Hornady brass that's been sorted and prepared to be as consistent as possible. Now some of that preparation is the normal full-length sizing, trimming as necessary, and all that good stuff. I chamfered and deburred the mouth of each of those cases and spent quite a bit of time preparing those primer pockets. Now I loaded a full box of ammo using this Hornady brass, and this individual group of brass varies in case weight by right around a grain, a little bit over a grain. Now as we're loading this, I'm using Federal Premium Gold Medal Match large rifle primers, 47.2 grains of Varget powder, and this 47.2 is chosen due to our previous optimal charge weight, and I'm wondering how the OCW load is going to carry through with this slightly different brass. We'll see. Now I'm topping all that off with 170 grain Hornady SST bullets. Now these are nice bullets. Actually what I've done on these is I went through my boxes of these bullets and I sorted these by weight. It really doesn't take very long. You know, if you've got your scale set up already from some loading, just run your bullets through it and sort them. What you'll find out is that while it says 170 grains on this box, the majority of them won't be 170.0 grains. And so I'm sorting these bullets and I'm firing very, very consistent bullets. In fact, this is 169.8 grain bullets. And to make this a little bit fun and challenging, I'm firing 5 rounds from Hornady factory ammo. This is Hornady's 196 grain boat tail hollow point bullet. It's all being done at 50 yards with a clean bore, clean and dry bore before I started any shooting. I fired 5 rounds with the Hornady factory ammo, followed by 5 rounds of my reloads. And of course I'm chronographing these loads, and I'm using my new lab radar chronograph on this. I'm going to look at and pay very close attention to the standard deviation of these loads, and I'll compare my reloads to the factory. Now one thing I noticed when I was firing this Mauser, when we were firing this Mauser just with factory ammo, that it certainly seemed to be shooting high. And what I'm doing then with the Hornady factory ammo, because I know it shot particularly high with that ammo, is I'm aiming at the target in the lower left. And as we see, we had about a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5, or maybe a pretty solid 6 inches high at 50 yards. I'm looking at the 5-shot group here, and what we did when I was out there is we were watching with the spotting scope where each round was impacting. As I was firing, you'll see that the first round was the lowest of the bunch and was a very clean bore, as I noted. Second, third, and fourth rounds started to group pretty nicely, and we're going to call that, you know, pretty indicative of what this ammo is capable of. And none of them were too wildly different anyway. And then the 5th shot is marked as a hurried shot. The person that was spotting for me made that note, and simply because he noted that I didn't take as much time between rounds 4 and 5 as I did between round 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and so on and so forth. Okay, so Then I loaded the reloads that I've been working on. And I know that these don't fly quite as high. They're a little bit high. Again, this is 50 yards. And ultimately, they came in 2.5 inches high at 50 yards. Now, that's not too bad. And luckily, both of those are just straight up above the bull in all cases. It's a much tighter group in that 5-shot group in contrast to the Hornady factory ammo. And again, if we choose 3 rounds that are indicative, we actually did a pretty nice job on 3 rounds. If we're going to make that comparison, 3 rounds of the Hornady indicative stuff, well, we got to look at 3 rounds that grouped nicely together with the reloads. And indeed, it did a really nice job. In fact, the groups were almost, if you look at it, they were almost exactly cut in half by using the reloaded ammunition. Almost exactly. And the other thing is, the standard deviation of these loads, again, almost exactly cut in half. I was getting about 32 feet per second standard deviation on the Hornady factory ammo, and I cut it all the way down to 16 feet per second standard deviation with these reloads. Now, that's not really great as far as I'm concerned. With my extreme reloading, I'm accustomed to getting into single digits on my standard deviation when I go through a process very similar to this. Now, I didn't turn the necks on these cases. There's a couple of other small things that I didn't do in for these cases, and maybe that accounts for some of that variability. And also, we have to understand that this is not really a precision rifle. Are the results unsatisfactory? Well, no, not at all. We just greatly improved this rifle's capabilities by doing some reloading. Nothing too terribly difficult. We did push it a little bit here and there, spent quite a bit of time on working up that powder charge and all that, but well worth it. What's next for this season of extreme reloading? Well, I'm going to do a very similar process, a lot of it off camera because we've already stepped through these processes in numerous episodes, but I'm going to load the 7.7 Arasaka. Now, this rifle is even older. This is a early World War II rifle, probably manufactured in the late 1930s, maybe 39, 38, somewhere in that range. It's in very good condition for a rifle of that age. And we have some Norma brass that I'll be working with to configure and set up this rifle. So, hey, stay tuned for the next episode of Extreme Reloading.